Here's your bread and cake, Mr. Amendola.
Thanks.
Oh, and here's a check. Your share of our profits for this month.
Well, well. You cast your dough upon the waters, it circulates, and it comes back strawberry shortcake. Thanks, partner.
Oh man, do I have a treat for you guys this time. So I was looking through old, obscure Christmas movies from the 1940s and 50s, trying to find something interesting to review. And wouldn't you know it, there's a film out there called The Great Rupert from 1950. It's also known as A Christmas Wish. And not only is this a public domain Republic film, it's a Christmas-themed film that features Jimmy Durante, the lovely Terry Moore. It's a George Powell production, and best of all, it features a stop-motion dancing squirrel. Oh man, it's the perfect Christmas gift. You're in for a treat. So I'll give a summary of the film, and then I'll give some closing thoughts. So the film opens up, and we have Jimmy Conlon as the character of Joe Mahoney. Now, he's an old entertainer with a trained squirrel named Rupert, one in adorable little costumes. And the two of them are working on a musical number together. But it turns out that his agent isn't having any of this dancing squirrel stuff, and soon he loses his apartment and he's out on the street. And in a fairly sad scene, very early in the film, he has to set poor Rupert free, so takes away his costumes and lets him go live amongst his own. Poor little guy. So we cut to the Amendola family. Now, they are just out of work and they're looking for a home. And there's Jimmy Durante as Louie, Queenie Smith as his wife, Mrs. Amendola, and Terry Moore as their daughter, Rosalinda. And wouldn't you know it, they just happened to arrive at the now vacant apartment that was just left by Joe and his squirrel. Now, this apartment is owned by the character Frank Dingle, played by actor Frank Orth. And he's sort of a greedy, money-loving sort of guy who would generally expect payment up front for the rent. However, the Amendolas are initially met by his son, Pete Dingle, played by actor Tom Drake, and he instantly has taken a liking to the lovely Rosalinda. So Louie is able to smooth talk him into letting them move in right away without making any sort of payment. And wouldn't you know it, Rupert moves in as well, back into the hollow spot into the wall up above them. So they're renting the house from Frank, who's sort of a Scrooge, but his wife, Katie Dingle, played by actress Sarah Hayden, is a little more warm-hearted and caring. Well, it would just happen that Frank discovers that a gold mine he has invested in years ago is going to start paying him $1,500 a week. But because he's sort of miserly and doesn't trust the banks or anything, he hides away the money in a hollow part of the wall. And, okay, you can probably figure out where this is going. So, the Amendolas, they're really struggling here financially. They can barely even afford a Christmas tree. Mrs. Amendola, in desperation, prays for assistance, and it's here that Rupert the squirrel, up high in the wall, he discovers a stash of bills that have been kind of stuffed into his dray, so he grabs the money and tosses it out, and it makes it appear that money is just falling from heaven down to Mrs. Amendola. So it's not like he's being a good Samaritan squirrel, he's just accidentally getting the clutter out of his nest, and in turn, this money is coming down for the Amendolas. So she gathers it up, and it's money from heaven for their family. So the newly wealthy Amendolas go to visit with their landlord, and Louis happily pays the rent. And he sits at the piano and sings a few tunes, and, you know, the music here is, of course, just fantastic.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride on a one-horse open sleigh. I love the excitement of Christmas. I'll never forget one Christmas Eve when I was a kid. I hung my stocking up on a mantle, went to bed, and when I woke up the next morning, what do you think I found on my stocking? My father's foot.
So Pete and Rosalinda perform a musical number together for tuba and harp, which is quite lovely. It's kind of an interesting pairing of instruments. Now, Pete, we can see, is clearly quite fond of Rosalinda, tells her how lovely she is, and that he has a promising future as a music writer. But then suddenly, you know it, someone shows up. It's this creepy guy with a fruit basket. It turns out that this is Phil Davis, actor Chick Chandler, and he's looking for old Joe, Remember, that was the guy at the beginning, that was training the squirrel. Now, he's gone, but we do find out that he is an agent. And when he sees how lovely Rosalinda is, he's interested in giving her a job and helping her out. And of course, Pete distrusts this shady character, but Rosalinda seems willing to go along with this guy when he asks her out. So she goes out with the guy, gets back late that night, and she really just wants to see this sheet music for tuba and harp get published. But he seems a little more interested in maybe a little romance with her. But come on, guy, you're like 25 years older than her. That's kind of weird. But she stays with him, trying to get this music published, and meanwhile, poor Pete takes a job at a soda shop to make some money. Louie, meanwhile, keeps spending money on lots of different things. Ridiculous stuff like a polar bear rug that plays music and so on. And the family starts to realize they're running short on money again. So they ask Mama again to pray for the money, which she is reluctant to keep doing. But sure enough, at the same spot and at the same time, that squirrel keeps throwing the money down to them. Now, Louis isn't completely spending money on ridiculous things. He's given a lot of money to help charities, such as buying shoes for European orphans. But when word starts to get around, lots of gossip around the locals about Joe, they start to wonder, is he with organized crime and is he in hiding or something? Now, Pete, who's working at the soda shop, is getting tired of all of the people just gossiping and sharing the news about these people, and he actually mushes an ice cream sundae into some gossipy old guy's face and then quits his job. But later, at a bar, he gets a tip about an oil investment that he could be a part of that will make him rich. He just needs to borrow some money from his dad in order to invest in this. But, his dad is miserly and denies having any money, lying about that money he's hiding in the wall. Well, Pete sees Rosalinda that night, talks to her, tells her about his feelings for her, gives her a kiss, but he's discouraged and tells her he doesn't know how they can make it work as he has no money. So she leaves in tears. But Louis, who had happened to overhear this talk about an oil well, offers to help him invest in it. But will he take the offer? However, there could be trouble on the way, as the next day Louis and Mama, they're at home, reminiscing about the past and enjoying some music together, when who should show up but the police, the FBI, and an IRS man, played by Frank Cady of Petticoat Junction. And they want to know, what's going on with this money? Where is it coming from? Well, what are they going to do? And what will they tell these people? Well, I'm going to stop the movie summary here because you need to see the ending for yourself. It's kind of crazy, all the things that follow. And you can see if the Amendola's helpful squirrel will continue to bring them money, or if this is the end of their newfound prosperity. And what will happen with Pete and Rosalinda and their new love? And what happens to Rupert the squirrel? Well, you got to watch the ending of this one for yourself to find out. All right, so some thoughts on this film. The Great Rupert was released in 1950 by Eagle Lion Films, and it was directed by Irving Pitchell and was produced by George Pal. Now, he's got a reputation for making some fun family films, and this one is really no exception. George Pal also produced some legendary films like The Day the Earth Stood Still, The War of the Worlds, and The Time Machine. And this film, The Great Rupert, it's just silly and fun. It's a perfect, goofy old film that you can enjoy with the kids. It's got plenty of humor and music and heart. I was looking for a Christmas film to review, and this one caught my attention initially because there's also a colorized version of this film, but it was released under the title A Christmas Wish. So that's what got me thinking this was a Christmas film. Honestly, though, having watched it a couple times, this film has some Christmas elements. It's, like Die Hard does. But is it really a Christmas film? Yeah. It's more of a feel-good story of a family down on their luck and a miracle supply of money, courtesy of a squirrel, that changes their life, with a few Christmas elements here and there. I thought Jimmy Durante was a hoot in this film. He's been in some films I've reviewed on the channel before, and I just find him so colorful and entertaining. There's a scene that genuinely made me laugh when he makes a self-referential joke about his own radio show. Watch this.
Pull bear rug with the radio inside of Mr. Jimmy Durante show.
Now, one thing I didn't get, though, is why is it that Louis, who is clearly a very talented musician who can sing and play a piano, why doesn't he just get a gig working at a club playing piano or something to help with the bills? But whatever. I'm reading into a film with a dancing squirrel. On that subject, I will be honest, my only disappointment with this film would be that going into it and knowing nothing about it initially, I thought maybe the story was going to be framed primarily around Jimmy Durante's character and the squirrel. You know, maybe the two of them doing musical numbers together through the film. You know, kind of like the old Looney Tunes cartoon with the singing frog. You know, hello, my baby, hello, my honey, you know, that sort of thing. But no, I mean, to my disappointment, the squirrel isn't in the film as much as I would have liked. Mostly just at the beginning and at the end, and occasionally in the middle, you know, throwing out the money and stuff. In fact, one of the stills for the movie, it actually shows Durante playing piano with the squirrel, but that never actually happens in the film. So I guess I was kind of misguided going into this, but hey, you know what? It's a minor gripe. I did like the film, and I did like the stop-motion effects of the squirrel. Yeah, it's not cutting-edge CGI, but it works for me, and it looks cute. The effects go between stop-motion sequences to footage of an actual live squirrel. So, I mean, the effects for 1950, I thought were pretty well done. Tom Drake and Terry Moore, they have a cute romance together, and you pretty much know where it's going to go in the story. I mean, the entire film is pretty predictable, but it's still fun to follow. Now, a silly side note. Jimmy Conlon played the squirrel trainer, Joe Mahoney. And I could have sworn watching this film, he was the same actor who first discovered the Blob, actor Olin Howland. Remember him? But I was wrong, the two different actors. Am I off my rocker, or do these two have an uncanny resemblance? You can let me know in the comments what you think. But anyhow, let me wrap this up. The Great Rupert from 1950. It's in the public domain, thankfully, and it's actually streaming free on Amazon Prime. It's funny, they have it listed as PG-13. Yeah, right. The colorized version is streaming on Prime as well, under the name A Christmas Wish. But as my three fans know, I'm not really a big fan of colorized films. I prefer the original black and white. The Great Rupert is a silly, all-ages, feel-good film. It's great for the family. It's a George Powell production, so it features humor, family love set during the holidays, a little bit of romance, a little drama, and a dancing squirrel. What more could you ask for? It's a treat, and it's worth checking out. Merry Christmas, everybody.